it is, guys. It's your boy here, Dragon, and I am here to not react to anything. Well, I guess you can call it a reaction, but I told you guys that I would do a review of the Batman, and I try to be a dragon of my word, you know? So that's what this video will be dedicated to. Now, tough part about reviews is A, I've never done one, and B, I guess I just don't know where to start. But I guess I'll just try to take it piece by piece. So let's give it a shot. First time for everything, right? So the Batman released this weekend, and I went to see it, Thursday night before it came out on Friday officially, super fan, obligated to go to see the movie before anyone sees the movie. So first and foremost, and I'm gonna do this without really spoiling much of anything. I don't think that it will do anybody justice to read spoilers. Like, you have to go and see this movie to understand just how great this movie truly is. But first and foremost, the movie takes place 2 years, after the Batman's origin. Which, of course, if you are a fan of Marvel, or I'm not Marvel, but if you're a fan of DC and you know anything about Batman, you know that his parents, were killed when he was a kid. And from there, he kind of spent his life conquering his fears and eventually donning the mantle of the Batman. And trying to purge Gotham of the evil influences that had plagued this city. Now, Gotham is an interesting city. Gotham's something's always going on in Gotham, and it's home to some of the most villainous and psychotic villains, creatures, people, I would say, in the history of comics. And I think that's what I love about Gotham so much. You have so many villains who have either tried to take the city over or who just wreak chaos for the satisfaction of wreaking chaos. You have characters like the Joker, you have characters like the Penguin, you have characters like Mr. Freeze and Poison Ivy, you have characters like Ra's al Ghul, you have characters that have all tried and ultimately failed to take over Gotham City. But I would say that the thing that this movie, one of the things that really captured my love for this movie has to be the way the Riddler was done. And the Riddler was, in all intents and purposes, the main villain of this movie. And this movie had layers, mind you. Like, there were layers that all kind of melded together so beautifully. And it all kind of had this one central theme. And I guess I'm not going to spoil anything, but the way, if you have ever kind of seen the Riddler done in any kind of thing, the Riddler's always kind of been more of like a joke of a villain. Not necessarily someone who you took seriously or someone who, really kind of made you worry. Like, even when playing the Arkham games, like, I never really considered Riddler to be like someone that I needed to focus on. Like, he was more of someone like, if I have time, I'll get to you, but if I don't, I don't, And I would say that this movie really changed my view of the Riddler. Taking him from like this comical, pompous jackass to this psychopathic mastermind was so beautifully done. And I give kudos to Matt Reeves for really taking this character and making him into something that's so devastating, almost to the level of the Joker. And it was really impressive to really see. And I would say that the main difference between his character and something that we've seen from the Joker is it's not just causing anarchy for the sake of causing anarchy. Like, the Riddler genuinely had a purpose, and he had a gripe that he genuinely felt was important. And I think what makes villains so interesting is when they genuinely feel like they are doing something for the greater good. Because in their eyes, they're not villains. Even though they're doing a lot of fucked up shit, they don't think that they're villains. And I think what's interesting about it is that Look at how Thanos was in the Avengers arc. Like, Thanos genuinely believed that by completing this mission, no matter what it cost him, that he was genuinely doing something for the greater good. And he didn't really feel like a villain, even though he was just that. And that's what's scary about a villain well done, is that they genuinely believe that they are doing something for the greater good. And that is what the Riddler encompassed in the Batman. His every action, and what's crazy is I'm sitting there watching it, and I kind of agree with him. Like, don't get me wrong, like, fuck the Riddler. But what he's doing is so justified, really. And it's crazy to kind of say that or to think that, but it is justified because he's trying to do something that's so important. And in his, and like I said, in his eyes, the means do the ends do justify the means. And I think that was something that they really captured. They took this character and really plucked him from obscurity and just made him into something fucking amazing. And I really look forward to seeing kind of how he's incorporated into future films. But we got the Riddler out of the way. Let's talk about Catwoman. Okay. I love Catwoman. And, you know, like it did me a solid to see one of my favorite kind of anti-heroes, one of my favorite burglar of all time, really kind of get onto the big screen and like really showcase just what Selena Kyle is all about. And casting for her was so tremendous and just so well done. You know, I can't say enough about how well Zoe Kravitz did as Catwoman. And, you know, just the chemistry, you know, that she has with Robert Pattinson in this movie is something else to behold. And anyone that knows anything, again, you know the dynamic between the Batman and Catwoman, the bat and the cat, you know. And so then they have a complex relationship that's twisted and turned, you know, throughout history. And what makes this so beautiful of a movie is that this movie isn't an origin story. And I'm so happy that it's not. It's not supposed to be an origin story. It was never supposed to be an origin story because we've seen Batman's origin story on the big screen enough times to really not need to see it again. We know what happened. We don't need to know and see what he went through to become the Batman. This movie takes place at a perfect time, but I'll get into that. And I'll get into Catwoman a little bit more in a second. So let's talk about the man himself, the Batman. And this movie starts off beautifully because it's talking about how when that light goes up in the sky, quote, it's a warning, unquote. And it is. When people see that light in the sky, no matter what it is, a movie, a video game, when people see that shit, they know that somewhere out there, he's there, he's around, and he is coming for that ass. And this movie does a great job of kind of taking that purge by fear and turning it into the symbol of hope that it truly has become over the years for the people of Gotham. And Robert Pattinson does such a great job as the Batman. And so many people, when he was cast in this role, so many people doubted that he would do well. Everyone just immediately thought of Twilight when they thought Robert Pattinson. And the crazy part is, like, even before this movie, like, a lot of the movies that he's done, like, he's proved that he has the range to act outside of what he did with the Twilight movies. And he took this role and he did so amazing in it. He truly, to me, encompassed everything. At this point in the story of Bruce Wayne, he was everything that Bruce was as both Bruce Wayne and the Batman. And he did such a great job. Like I said, this movie truly reminded me of the Batman Arkham games. It reminded me a little bit of some of the Telltale games. And if you played Batman Arkham Origins, this was what that was. This was a young Batman who genuinely did not give a shit about anything else. He didn't care about Wayne Enterprises. He didn't care about his personal image. He only cared about the influence that he was supposed to have as the Batman. And that is exactly what they captured in this movie. This movie is about It's roughly 3 hours. But it does such a good job of painting this picture for the future of this series that you really cannot do it. And there was not a dull moment. There was not a moment in that movie where I was bored or where I felt like stuff was unnecessary or where I thought that things just were kind of all over the place. This movie was so well synchronized and it flowed so smoothly that I was genuinely impressed. And I didn't know what I was expecting going into this movie, but it was so well done. This was, let me put this into perspective for you guys. How people see Tom Holland as Spider-Man as like the perfect blend of Peter Parker and Spider-Man, that is how I see Robert Pattinson. And I believe that a lot of people out there will agree with this because you had Christian Bale, who in my opinion sucked as the Batman. He was a great Bruce Wayne, arguably, but he sucked as the Batman. He had that stupid voice that was so forced. And the only thing that really saves Christian Bale was the fact that he had a good franchise. And I would say that that was more so due to support and writing as it was to him actually doing well as a character. I genuinely did not think that Christian Bale was a great Batman. But that's just my opinion. And I may get some shit for that. But as a lifelong fan of this character, I can honestly say that I did not enjoy that. Now, you have Ben Affleck, who, again, was a good Batman. But maybe not necessarily the best Bruce Wayne. And I honestly believe that Ben Affleck was a better character than Christian Bale. But again, that's just my own personal opinion. Some may agree, some may disagree. But you take Robert Pattinson, and I think that at this point, he is the perfect blend of Bruce Wayne and the Batman. And he is, and what's great about this movie is that it really sets him up to become exactly what the Caped Crusader is supposed to be. You're setting him up to become the world's greatest detective. That's who Batman is. It's setting him up to really become like this amazing character that he's supposed to be. This movie takes place at the perfect time for the Batman to stop being this reckless guy who only cares about purging corruption from Gotham and really setting him up to become the hero that he is supposed to be. And I think that's what I love about it the most. 10 out of 10. I highly recommend anyone go see this movie. I'm going to go see it again. Probably, I don't know how many more times I need to see it. And when it comes out on HBO Max, I'm watching it again too. Look, amazing casting all around. Amazing casting. The Penguin Colin Farrell did a great job as the Penguin. Like, everyone did their job and like they played their part so well, and I love it. And it sets things up for the future. There's no way we don't get a sequel. And I'm excited as hell for the sequel. I don't know when it's going to come, but I know it's coming because there's no way that the way the movie ended, that there's not going to be a sequel. I love that this movie takes place in its own universe outside of the DCEU, because what I think they will do with this is really introduce so many characters that have almost been forgotten about. And if this is what they did with the Riddler, and they made him this, and it genuinely made me believe that this was a villain, I am excited to see what else they can do with some other characters. Let us see Bruce Wayne and Batman without him having to necessarily be tied to Superman or the Justice League. Because he was doing this shit before he even met any of them. He was protecting his city before he met any of them. And at his core, that is what Batman represents. He will always pick Gotham before anything else. And I love that much. And so, perfect casting. The movie was so well done. The fight scenes were amazing. Like, nothing lagged. You genuinely felt fear when these guys went toe-to-toe with the Batman. But you also genuinely felt fear every time the Riddler was on screen. And this was a perfect way of really establishing Bruce Wayne as the world's greatest detective. It genuinely felt like they took inspiration from the Arkham games, and that they took inspiration from the Telltale games, and they really painted this amazing, like, this was such a well done movie, and I can't say that enough. So before I start kind of repeating and rambling, like, I don't know what else I can say outside of this movie was just absolutely fantastic. And if you have not gone to see the Batman, I recommend you go and see the Batman. I guarantee you will not be disappointed in any way, shape, or form. So with that being said, I'm gonna get out of here. Hope you guys enjoyed this review, and I hope I don't think I spoiled anything. And there's so much more I want to dive into, but I'm gonna wait until you guys see the movie. And when you see the movie, come back to this video and you drop comments down below on what your thoughts were on this movie. If you have seen the movie, don't spoil it. But still, drop those comments down below and let me know what you thought of the movie. But I'll be back real soon. Don't forget again to comment, like, subscribe, and love the Batman. Love Gotham. And that's all I can say. So, yeah. I'll be back soon. Love you guys so much. Dragon out.